Hi, my name is Travis Thomas. I am a performance coach that focuses on mindset, team dynamics, and culture. And I've been doing that for, I don't know, man, close to 20 years now. And I love working with organizations and athletes and everyone in between. And I think the thing that got me into this industry, which was unexpected for me, and I think unexpected for the industry, was that I was doing improvisation and improvisational comedy for 6 or 7 years before I decided to transition into this field. I still do the improvisation as a hobby, but I've found an interesting way to bring improvisation into the world of mental performance and culture. And I'm always juggling a lot of balls, Eric. There's a lot up in the air, but they're all filled with a lot of purpose and intention. And but every day is an adventure and every year is a big unknown. And here I am, 2025. Let's do it. Yeah.
We made it. Inauguration day for those keeping count.
That's right.
So you said that you might have a story that came to mind that you could share with me about divine experiences you've had. What one rises to the top?
I would say if we're going to go to that sort of immediately, I think the one that comes to mind, again, because, in full transparency to everyone, no prep. We didn't start this call and I was anticipating where it was going to go, especially in this direction. But I'm an open book. I'm fine with anything. But the one that comes to mind when I think about like sort of a divine experience has stayed with me and continues to stay with me would be, if you go back to, I want to say it was 2004, 2005, when I decided I wanted to really get into, and this was probably the experience that really launched it as, this is what I want to do. But a friend had recommended that I go through this personal development course, right? I was doing some work with her on the corporate side. And she said, hey, really cool personal development course. I got a ton out of it. I think you get a ton out of it too. I think you should do it. And she goes, actually, I'll even pay for it. Right. And I think she either paid partial or all of it. And so it was a week-long course. It was 5 days. It was Monday, Tuesday, take a break on Wednesday. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was Thursday, Friday, take a break on the weekend, come back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I was doing the course and I was like, there's like 12 of us in the class, and it was a deep dive into kind of like, the power of your thoughts and consciousness, and there's spirituality in it. There's philosophy. There was all this life purpose and all this stuff in it. And I was enjoying myself because that stuff is really interesting to me, but I was enjoying it. And I was probably enjoying it on a very sort of comfortable surface level, right? This is great, but kind of like, hey, this is great and whatever. So just kind of going through it, but getting some ideas and kind of excited about it. And now you fast forward to the weekend. So we do the first 2 days and then we have the weekend off, and we're just kind of, we have some assignments and things like that. And I was with I had two of my kids. I have 3 kids, 2 of the kids at the time, that they were both very young. My wife, we were in St. Louis visiting family, and that's where I was taking this course. And it was the Sunday of the weekend. And we were staying at my sister's house, a big trampoline at her house. And it was sundown, and my wife and I were out on the trampoline, and she's like, doing like backflips and all this stuff. And like, I was never like a backflip guy. I wasn't the crazy guy in the back. Like, and so, but we're jumping, and she's like, do a backflip. Come on, do a backflip. It's easy. And I'm like, I'm feeling all jive. Oh yeah, I haven't done it, but I'm just kind of feeling juiced from this course. And I'm like, I'm going to go for it. And so I jump, boom, hit the trampoline, start to go into the backflip, and I bail out halfway. It's not a good time to bail out. And I come down straight, head first, neck first, and I kind of like, in the spirit of Rice Krispies, I hear snap, crackle, pop. And like, how like you're immediately bolted into,
I'm dead.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. And I remember popping up, and she's looking at me, and she saw what happened and may even have heard what happened. And she looks at me, she goes, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. and all of a sudden, the whole half of part of my body just goes completely numb. And I get out of the trampoline, and, I'm in straight panic mode, right? Straight panic mode. And I'm walking around and just like, kind of like walking around, because I was afraid if I stopped, I would pass out or go unconscious and die. I don't know. Yeah. And so you're okay. And I get a friend on the phone, and she's kind of like a spiritual mentor of mine, who I've called almost my whole life. to help me, support me and things, pray for me and different things, right? So I call her and I tell her what happened, and now she's just like, she's reaffirming sort of my spiritual identity, right? You are whole, you are complete. Feel your whole, see yourself as a divine image and likeness. You see yourself, hold yourself, you're complete. And the whole time I'm on the cell phone, I'm walking and talking, and like the mantra that came in my head was like, just keep moving, do not stop, just keep moving. I'm on the phone with her probably 20, 30 minutes. And now at this point, my wife can see that I'm not going to die, but so she goes inside, she knows I'm on the phone, and now it's getting dark, and like a full moon is coming up in the distance. And I'm off the phone at this point. And I'm walking, and I'm just kind of like praying, meditating, just trying to feel the divine, not think the divine, trying to feel the divine. And I'm just like looking at the moon and like standing in the light of the moon, and just stripped raw right down to like, all right, Father, all right, divine, whatever you want to call it, I'm here. And just feeling this like really, really clear. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm not dead. I don't think I'm going to die. I don't know what the damage is, but, and I'm supposed to have this class we're starting up at 9:00 a.m. the next morning. So I get inside my sister's house, and I couldn't lay down. Right. Again, remember, I still can't feel half my body. And I wasn't, just full transparency, I'm not a real like medical hospital dude. So like, I didn't want to go to the hospital. All right. And so they get me propped up on the couch, sort of where I can kind of sit up and be comfortable. And that's how I slept that night. And I wake up the next morning, and I don't know if I'm going to physically be able to go to this class. And I'm just like kind of like in the mindset of take it step by step. All right, if I can I stand up? Or I can stand up. But I'm walking as slow as anyone can possibly walk. Right, just not. I can't move my head to the left, right, left arm. And just moving. And my wife is like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I'll just give it a shot." Right, and so. We get to the class, and it was in a school, and the gentleman who's leading the class, it was him, and he had 2 assistant coaches, just amazing people. And I get out of the car, they see me come walking up, and all of a sudden their eyes are like big saucers, like, what happened? But like, not like, ooh, we're going to jump into the human curiosity of what happened. They just came up and they're like, what can we do for you? And I was like, I'm just really happy to be here. And they're like, we got you. Right. And so I sat down, and I was filled with gratitude of like, I can't believe I'm just like, wow, I'm here. Right. And then the last 3 days of the course it was like, the message was, are you open? Like, am I open? And I was like, yeah. Like, so like I said, like the first 2 days, this is great. This content is great. Yeah, this is great. It's good. And it's almost like, the universe's way of like, you're not hearing this. You're not really, we need to crack this egg open. If you're really about transformation, we need to break this egg open and get your attention. This isn't a head thing, Travis. This is a heart whole thing. And that's what the next 3 days was like, oh, okay. What if I just, it's like, whatever. I'm extroverted. I'm a talker. I'm like, yeah, I want to chime in and like make jokes and like, hey, and those last 3 days were just like, it was much more just shut up and listen. And I got better, physically over those 3 days, I felt better each day, a little bit more mobility. We had to fly back. We were living in Florida at the time. We had to fly back to Florida, a couple of young kids, and I needed to ask for help because I really couldn't carry things. I needed to ask for help. And I was expecting healing, and I was expecting a full recovery. A week after the accident, I was on a bachelor party trip with some friends of mine, going down to the Keys to hang out. And outside of a little tenderness, you would have never known that I had been in an accident. Right. So there was a physical healing component that was pretty quick and pretty drastic. But the real takeaway from that was the guy I was when I walked into that class was not the guy that walked out. And in a lot of ways, who I am today, as far as wanting to be someone that is trying to do good things in the world and be a support to other people and live on purpose and do work that feels on purpose and purposeful, and hopefully trying to be a husband and a father and a friend and a speaker and a presenter that is more transformational than transactional. I kind of feel like that was a moment in time that, to the outside, there probably wasn't a huge difference in who I was or how I showed up, but internally, it changed everything. And I can still remember that feeling of being under the moon. Remember the feeling of feeling just so raw and afraid, but also at the same time loved and taken care of. And yeah, so that's the experience.
Incredible, Travis. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
It's bold, maybe even a little bit inappropriate for me to go so deep right off the get, but so I appreciate you you vibing with me on that frequency. So it's interesting. You mentioned a couple of emotions throughout that whole experience. You mentioned gratitude, you mentioned fear, you mentioned raw. And it would appear, and I've had a couple of conversations in this regard, that these instances of monumental change, of this increased feeling of receptivity, right? That's what it sounds like.
Totally.
The event was probably good for the first 3 days, and it just happened that you were getting much more out of it the second 3 days.
Yeah.
Is there a specific one of those emotions that you feel like turned up the dial on your receptivity? Was it the combination of all of those things? And have you been able to replicate that with some sort of spiritual practice or ritual since that event happening?
I think what I've taken from it since then more than anything is, from a practice or from a philosophy or from a lifestyle, my wife and I we both appreciate and in a lot of ways have lived the mantra of this African proverb, which is leap and the net will appear. I would say I can definitely relate to wanting to, I will leap once I know that there's a plan in place and everything's going to be okay. I think most people can relate to that. But that idea, so I think in that leap and the net will appear, well, in that is trust, right? There has to be a clear sense of trust of, to what do I believe is the source of my safety and my life, right? So I know it's not me. And so like sort of like faith and trust. What do I trust? And then there's an embracing of the unknown. There's an embracing of the uncertain. And so there's been numerous times when my wife and I, we've known that it's time to move on from whether we were living somewhere or a job that we have. It's time to move on. We don't really know what the next thing is, nor do we know what the how the finances are going to meet the need, but we know it's time. So do we trust ourselves to listen to that internal voice or that internal message that says it's time? Are you going to do it? Are you going to trust? And so I think that's where the last idea, Eric, which would be surrendering, right? Surrender / release, right? Am I willing to release controlling or feeling like I need to control the outcome, or know the outcome, right? Controlling / knowing. And so if I can release the need to know or the need to control what I want to happen or what I think is going to happen, and then I can just be like, all right, so my only job is really to stay on purpose, right? And to stay on purpose. And then what happens as a result of being on purpose is less important than actually being true to listening to that sense of direction, which is through the lens of your purpose, right? And so part of that class that I took back then was you're invited to, hey, every company or organization has a mission statement, has a purpose statement. What's yours? And duh, it's like a big duh. McDonald's has a mission statement. They're freaking making cheap burgers,
Crushing it.
right? Well, I'm a CEO. We're all CEOs and companies of one. And so what's our rudder? What's our North Star that is guiding you through every decision and choice that you make? That it shouldn't that be purpose driven? And so Yeah.
I recently went through Success Principles by Jack Canfield, and
Yeah.
he has that purpose,
Mhm.
mission, activity, principle number 3. And it was a difficult one for me. There's so many things that like it gets conflated by all the things that you think that you want to do. And it ultimately, I really envy the people who can be like, I really want to help owners of HVAC companies become financially independent. And they're just like, oh, I just love it. Or
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
like my jam is Peruvian mothers, right? Like I'm just all about serving Peruvian mothers. And I got to tell you, I have not been able to do that. Mine has
Yeah.
been very broad. So my purpose, as I've written it down, and it's something that I'm in a constant state of flux on at this time,
Yeah.
catching me
Yeah.
at an interesting time, is to use my passion and creativity to uplift consciousness. And
That's a good one.
dude, it barely makes money. And
Right.
that
Right now. Right
the
now.
more that I let go, to
Yeah.
your point,
Yeah.
the more that the path has been clear, right? I looked at my wife the other day, and I think if you ask most podcasters, most of them do not make money just doing the podcast. They always have other things that are going on that support them, full-time jobs most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I looked at her, this was probably 2-3 days ago, and I go, oh my gosh, I podcast for a living officially. Here, we made it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I'm on purpose as of right now. But I still find myself scratching out and adding to and thinking about it. And it sounds like that's okay from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think it's okay because I think what you're scratching and editing is you're not scratching and editing your purpose. You're distilling. You keep distilling it down to its essence, right? And that's what editing is, right? Is you're distilling something down. You're not changing its message or meaning. You're distilling it down to a clear, simpler meaning. So like the purpose or the essence of it is still there. It's changeless. You're just finding better words or better language to articulate it that therefore makes it more palpable, powerful, and practical to you. And I think when it comes to sort of purpose, most of us get caught in the what, thinking the purpose is the what instead of really seeing it as the where, the how, right? Like my purpose is this, why? Because this is what fires me up. And I'm like, all right, so cool. How might you express that? Well, I can do this podcast. Yeah, absolutely. This podcast. How else might you express that? How are you going to do that in your marriage? And how are you going to do that as a parent? And how do you do that in your friendship? And how do you do that in that thing that you volunteer for? Because you are still, go ahead and say your purpose statement one more time.
Yeah. To use my passion and creativity to uplift consciousness.
Yeah. That's not podcast specific.
Hardly.
It's just, yeah. And so if you did that in every aspect of your life, how good would you be in all those different aspects?
One of the things that the listeners of the show have watched me discover along the path has been, oh man, so much back history for this. Anyone who's listened from the very beginning, they know we left the Mormon church in 2019 after being in it for 26 years. And then we discovered jujitsu along the route. And like that, the whole martial arts world has kind of created a kaleidoscope of experiences and perspective. And one of the things that I've realized in this whole thing is that you are a coach, right? I've learned that I love coaching, especially the kids class in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And so when I think about the most valuable interactions that I've had with kids on the mat, it's those moments when they get it. There's like a little, that tiny, and every coach knows it and they get off on it. They just love it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
The kid gets it. And then you see them execute it, and then they get it even more. And it's like you saw the sprout, and it's like you're both farming and they were having trouble with it. And then all of a sudden, both of you see the sprout poke up at the same time, and you're both like, oh. And then from then on out, right, they come to you and they're like, give me more seeds.
Yeah.
And their entire trajectory has changed.
You saw the shift. You've helped with the shift. And once there's been a shift, you've created, you obviously you're not the creator of it, but they have created a new reality for themselves. And
I'm happy to be that facilitator.
Honestly, what's better than that?
Is there you're an author and a motivational speaker and a coach. Is there a coaching outcome that you are particularly proud of? An aha moment that you've had along the road with somebody that you've been one-on-one involved with, that was maybe quite a project, right? There was quite a bit of stuff to work through, and kind of give me the 411 on that. What happened? What was the outcome? And how did it happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few that come to mind just from long time relationships. I've had a few people that have, and a lot of them, were friends that kind of then the relationship became a little more intentionally a coaching relationship, even though we were still friends, because they were asking for help. And some of those have spanned years, and to see and just to be able to be there with them and for them, and to see them navigate different really difficult aspects of life in the process. Obviously, that's super rewarding and fulfilling. For me, right, it was like a dream come true. I got to, be on the coaching staff for the U.S. men's national soccer team for 3 years, right, as the leadership and team dynamics coach. And which means I did like team mindset sessions with the players during those years. But really, for the most part, my real job was like just be really embedded within the fabric of the team and build relationships with these guys that they knew that anytime they could reach out or ask for help or just say, hey, can I talk to you? And I see it as a huge honor anytime someone feels safe enough and trusts me enough to be that vulnerable. And so, yeah, man, there's one instance that comes to mind, because like when you think about professional athletes, it's easy to think that mentally they got locked in.
Yeah.
Maybe there's, some minor ups and downs, but they never really are that maybe disoriented. Oh no, and it was just one particular time, and a player came to me and said, hey, can we talk? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And we got into a room, and I'd always seen him as such just so solid, just mentally so solid, and just a great guy. We had a great relationship, but so solid. And like, he was just like the floodgates open, not necessarily, I mean, there was emotion in it, but it was just like all this personal stuff that was going on in his life. He was caring about how his family was going to respond, and caring about sort of, his wife, and caring about all these major decisions that were looming over him, and everything that was outside of his control. And I found myself at one point, he closed his eyes, and I found myself just, the best way to describe it was, it felt like I was praying for him. It's like it was a professional coaching relation. I wasn't praying for him, but it was a verbal, like, what I discerned in the moment was he needed to be reminded of who he was, right? He needed to be reminded of who he was. So out loud, as he closed his eyes and just sat there, and I just started telling him who he was, how I saw him, right? Based on his strengths and his qualities, right? And reinforcing all of the things that he had done in his career to get to where he was. And with the message of all you need to focus is just come back to who you are and focus on what you can control. All these other things are outside of your control, right? They will take care of themselves. And your job is to do what you can to have an impact by showing up and being the best version of yourself. But I just remember, I felt like, okay, this isn't a typical coaching call. This is me. There was just a lot of compassion and love in that interaction. And he just opened his eyes, and he just kind of sat there for a while. And he just goes, thank you. He goes, thank you. I really needed to hear that. And I was like, yeah, anytime. And a couple of days later, he said, it was a similar,
right? He's
yeah, it's kind of
so
like
quick.
That, yeah. And so like those stand out because, it's like, I'm in this highly competitive environment, masculine elite performers. And there was such an honesty and vulnerability and tenderness in that moment. And here's the thing, like he went out and crushed it on the field. And so we tend to think of like how we think about warriors and all these different things. This masculine, and it's like, yeah, they both exist. They exist in the same person. And it's not I can still be filled with vulnerability and still go out and be super courageous and perform at the highest of levels, even with the sense of, vulnerability and uncertainty. And there definitely was a lack of confidence, but there wasn't a lack of courage. And so, yeah, that one, again, just like if you're just asking me like, hey, what's one that just comes off the top of your head? That's definitely one that stands out.
Good. Travis, where can everyone find you?
So I'm an organization of one, right? Live Yes And. I partner with a lot of different companies for talks and coaching and things like that. But you can always find me at most things Live Yes And. My website's liveyesand.com. Probably spend the most time on Instagram. So you'll find me on Live Yes And.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, Eric.
This has been the Pulse Ox Podcast. Please, if you found this episode valuable, give us a like on Spotify and share it with a friend.